Welcome to the Pocket. My name is Scooter, here to give you my Week 7 reaction to the Giants' loss to the Philadelphia Eagles 28-3 at home in Saquon Barkley's return revenge game, first game back in MetLife. I give a little moment of silence there in the beginning, and that was for the end of the Giants' season this year. Mathematically, nothing's over and nothing's impossible, but for all intents and purposes, this season, much like many others the past few years, is over. What an embarrassing loss. Given the context that I gave you in the preview video, everyone knew it. And in the intro to this video, Saquon Barkley runs all over us. No drive-by-drive coverage in this video. We're just going to talk some team stats. Eagles passing yards, 114, and the Giants, 105 combined between two quarterbacks. Eagles had one passing touchdown to A.J. Brown. And you're thinking, okay, that doesn't sound so bad. Sounds like both teams struggled to pass. But the Eagles had 269 rushing yards with Jalen Hurts, mostly Saquon Barkley, Kenneth Gainwell, even Will Shipley got in there to get some rushing yards. 3 rushing touchdowns. Okay, so that's pretty apparent that the Eagles definitely dominated and won this game. But to add insult to injury, we didn't even come close to be competitive in this game offensively. Eagles had 5.2 yards per play. I've seen better, but, running the ball, it's going to be a little bit lower, and they were definitely dominant in doing that. Giants, 2.2 yards per play. Ridiculous. First downs, Eagles had 20. We had 10. Terrible. Third down, both teams were bad. Eagles were 1 for 13. Look at what the defense is doing. The Giants are only 3 for 14. Eagles had 8 punts, and the Giants had 11. And that almost correlates directly with the sacks here. The Eagles had 8 sacks, and the Giants only had 5. So that's 3 more punts for the Giants, 3 more sacks for the Eagles. Penalties essentially canceled out. Eagles had 6, Giants had 5, both resulting in 35 yards. And the Eagles dominated time of possession, of course, running the ball 35 minutes and 20 seconds to the Giants 24 minutes and 40 seconds. 0 turnovers on either end. A really weird game, statistically. Really just the Eagles' rushing game is what allowed them to completely dominate us. Other than that, we really had their passing game bottled up out of that one play to A.J. Brown. I believe McLeod was guarding him on that route. I mean, I thought we were bracketing him. Not really sure what happened there, leaving McLeod one-on-one with him. But let's get into what the real conversation is surrounding this game. Actually, real quick, I'll give my thoughts on the defense. They're still really talented, and they're doing their best. But, being out there with the time of possession, them just running the ball, really, they have no chance out there. The offensive cast of weapons could be better, but they're definitely more than adequate, especially with Neighbors. Wandale's in a bad slot receiver. Got some young tight ends in there. Tracy as a running back. And the offensive line, yeah, they weren't great, but it was the first game without Andrew Thomas, and they've been solid all year. They're going to adjust over the coming weeks. That's a lot easier to fix than something that I will now get into. Quarterback. Something that you cannot fix about quarterback is the instincts, right? And that is essentially the biggest glaring issue with Daniel Jones that I feel like everything can be summed into, the it factor. He just doesn't have it, right? One playoff game. That's what his entire career is riding on, and we're going to break this all down. In this game, DJ was 14 for 21, 99 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks, 0 fumbles, 5 carries for 20 yards. So you account for essentially 119 yards of offense and 14 completions and 5 carries. Like Daboll said in the postgame, I believe he was making the right decisions, and then there were other times where either he or somebody else was screwing up. It's just like there's so much a quarterback can do in every play that is a passing play or if it's a running play, whether he can pull it in the read option or whatever, that if you really trust your quarterback, you can give him a lot of command over your offense and what happens every play. Guys like Lamar playing hero ball, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels even, you see that from him just taking over a play. It's not there. With Daniel Jones, that play is over. With these mobile quarterbacks who have good instincts or even just the good pocket passers that can create space like Burrow, Purdy, they still get it done because they have that it factor. Daniel Jones does not have the it factor. The time is up. He's run out of time. He's run out of chances. The stats have been hard to ignore for years. They've been hard to argue against. And even an optimistic, enthusiastic fan and person like me who loves to see all perspectives and sides of an argument, I even have officially run out of excuses, reasons, and cases to be made in defense of Daniel Jones. It's it's just unbearable at this point to put this much faith in a guy, to back him up when none of the stats agree with you, when none of the eye test for instincts or anything like that, when none of that agrees with him being good, and you still go out on a limb and you construct these arguments and reasons why, the Giants have been a terrible team. He's not had a chance to develop. Makes you think of a guy like Sam Darnold or something like that. Maybe it is our fault, but just right now, it's just not working. It's time for change. This organization doesn't have time for it. And even if it's like a second round guy this year that we get, whoever Daboll and Shane bring into the building, into the organization next year, I'll take it. Something different, a real competitor who's going to either push Daniel Jones right out or push him so well that he actually magically becomes better at football and we can hold on to him for the contract. Very unlikely. Like I said, whoever Daboll and Shane take, I'll trust it. They drafted Josh Allen. They didn't draft Daniel Jones. They didn't draft him. They inherited him. And I suspect that even though the contract was paid to him by Joe Shane, I believe deep down in my heart that that was a John Mara decision. Now, Shane can say everything he wants about like the running back market and, wanting to secure him and that being Daniel Jones. I don't know. It just seems to me like it's just the management, the organization, the owner at this point. But I'll get into Daboll and Shane and Mara more later. Daniel Jones' stats, the ones that I was referring to before, are just so bad. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in MetLife since 2022. That's like 700 days. It's unreal. There's lists going around all over social media of quarterbacks from opposing teams who have thrown more touchdowns than Daniel Jones. There's like at MetLife Stadium that it's like 15, 20 quarterbacks who have done it. DeVito, right? Backups, Tyrod. It's just like, what are we doing here? Even hockey players who score 1 point at a time, scoring more points than Daniel Jones in MetLife Stadium. It's ridiculous. Another really bad stat. 4 of his 5 starting seasons, right? Now, I know he didn't finish every season fully healthy, but for the start of most seasons, he was healthy. 4 of those 5 starting seasons, we started 2-5. Really, really bad. Outside of the year we made the playoffs. He's had a bunch of injuries, but he's never eclipsed 3,205 passing yards. His rookie year, he had 24 passing touchdowns. Of course, he had a bunch of turnovers. It might have even been more turnovers, but since that season, he hasn't even eclipsed 15 passing touchdowns. That was the year he made the playoffs. He's had one 16-game season. As I said before, he just can't stay healthy. So what we have here is a quarterback who, regardless of the running traits that you refer to and that, maybe he's a decent decision maker, I wouldn't even go as far to say that sometimes, but he can't stay healthy. He can't score touchdowns, especially at home. And now the fan base, it's got to be 80, 90, 95% of the fan base hates him. They're done with him. You can't have that be the face of your franchise. Malik Neighbors isn't going to be enough to be the face or to mask the fact that Daniel Jones isn't like the leader of the team. It's not going to be enough. It's time for change. So I've heard some people suggest him getting benched like going into the bye week, right? So there's 2 weeks for Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito to prepare. Daniel Jones does have like a $23 million injury clause. So if he does get hurt, we're paying him that money, I believe, next year. So there's some real decisions to be made here regarding who's starting. It's not just who gives us the best chance to win. You can kind of, you finally have an excuse to say, oh, I think Drew Lock gives us the best chance to win, or Tommy DeVito, that being Brian Daboll, the person saying best chance to win. You actually have a reason for John Mara to come in and say, okay, you can bench Daniel Jones if you want to. I don't want this injury clause business because we're going to have a new quarterback next year. kind of like the Broncos did with Russell Wilson when they benched him for, I believe it was Jarrett Stidham. It was because of the injury clause. But what's crazy is when Daboll says he's our best chance to win, I think he might be right. I know I said before I want Locke or DeVito to start, and there's a lot of ground to cover when it comes to making a take like that. But I do think Daniel Jones gives us the best chance to win. I mean, Drew Lock looked terrible, right? He looked really bad when he got in there. Now I get he didn't have time to prepare, but you're a backup. You should be ready to come in and play at a moment's notice. So he looked awful. And it right now looks like, I mean, statistically, DeVito has won the most games and thrown the most touchdown passes because Tyrod's gone now in our home stadium. So regardless of his low ceiling, he actually has it. He has the instincts. And I say if Locke sucks, just throw DeVito out there because at least DeVito can galvanize the team, right? Someone you can rally behind. The fan base will be happy because either you're happy we're losing or we're not going for, wins, or you're happy because, we got some Italian, quarterback out there who's, it's funny for the culture and all that stuff. And it's something different, right? That's what I've been saying is we need change. So most people are going to be happy if DeVito is out there, unless if Locke can turn it around with some preparation. Now, what sucks is I still think somehow we're going to manage to win 6 or 7 games. Yes, I still do think that. This is our first week without Andrew Thomas, and we're home, which really means we're away. I still don't think this Eagles team is that fantastic or anything, but they're maybe in that like 10 to 12 range. I'll have to take a look at what I would say the power rankings are this week. And like I said, first week without Andrew Thomas, they're a pretty good team. I think the coaching will fix that offensive line over time. This was going to be probably the worst week unless if we suffer more injuries to the O line. And as I said, when we're home, we're basically away. We play better in away games. We're a different team. So I think we'll squeak out 4 or 5 more wins. We got a few gimmies on there like the Panthers. And, the Saints aren't looking too hot right now. But either way, yeah, I don't think we're going to finish with like a top 4, top 5 pick. I think last year was the year for something like that. But as I said, first round guy, second round guy. This isn't like as hyped up of a class. You don't really know where they're gonna fall in value. So I'm not super concerned about like how many wins we're gonna get or if we're ruining the tank job. But you know, I'm standing by that. I do think we'll win 6 or 7 games, and we have a nice stretch of away games. When we win 3 or something, we're pretty much there, right? We'll get a win when it doesn't matter in week 18 and further decrease our draft pick. But yeah, I also want a young quarterback to feel confident joining this team, right? If you're joining like a 6 win team, a 7 win team, it's a lot different than if you're joining like a team that's completely rebuilding like the Patriots are. I know Drake May looks good. I know Jaden Daniels looks good, and they were rebuilding, right? Got it done in 1 year. Stroud, the Texans, when he joined them, they had a new coach and stuff like that. But, they were competitive. Of course, they lost the second most games that year, but they were competitive in a lot of games. Like they had some pieces. So I want a young quarterback to see that our defense has the potential to be elite as long as, they don't stay on the field for 35 minutes. And I want them to say, look, the Giants got a decent O line. It's not bad. They got Malik Neighbors. Wandale's a slot. Yeah, they need a wide receiver too and an established starting tight end, but there's a lot to work with there. And Brian Daboll, once again, I still believe he's a good coach. So I wouldn't mind that situation as a young QB. And if Daniel Jones is like still on the roster, but we can cut him at a moment's notice, right? Even though there's still going to be dead cap, you're feeling pretty good about your chances to overtake that QB spot because if there's a backup in town and Daniel Jones does the usual 2-5 or starts off 0-2, then the fan base is going to be screaming. And you've already committed to this new quarterback. He'll be in there pretty quickly, and that'll be a confidence boost. It's not like he's getting thrown into the wolves, right? He's joining a decent team. He's got a chance to succeed. So that's what I want to see for the Giants for the rest of the season. Build a culture, build a roster. And, if you do that and get a new QB, it's a good way to avoid a rebuild. If we have a rebuild, another 3 to 4 years, we're losing all these defensive players we just acquired. And you're just really starting from scratch. I don't think it's fair to blame it all on Daniel Jones. The Giants have had other problems, and as I kind of alluded to with the Sam Darnold, breaking the confidence of a QB for a team, it's just too late in my opinion. It's really too late. Daniel Jones has 6 years of trauma that he's given the Giants fans. It's I don't think there's really anything he could do to reestablish confidence in the fans of their confidence of him. It's just too much. So even if just the placebo of him being gone changes the culture, we got to do what we got to do as an organization for what's best for us. Now for Brian Daboll, I don't think we should fire him. No, please. Uh, he hasn't gotten even a chance to select the QB that he really wants. Right? I'm not counting them signing that contract. As I said, I'm pretty confident that was a John Mara influence decision. Thought he was kind of mid in this game. Got a little cute saying that he thought maybe some short passes were there to be an extension of the run game to expose that Eagles secondary more than their run defense, which is definitely better. But in the end of the day, I think you're just going away from your identity, right? We've been in games because we've been running the ball and chewing up the clock, and our identity should be running more and trusting DJ with less dropbacks. The running backs only had 3 carries going into half. It was almost 14-7 if it weren't for that really bad push-off call on Theo Johnson on that spot route. I mean, super subtle. Like, I've seen dudes get away with way more. I mean, you flash back to the, what's his name, Kyle Rudolph catch in the playoffs. I guess it's a playoff game. You're hesitant to call it, but, stuff like that happens all the time. And I can't believe they called that. Could have been 14-7 going into half. Maybe it's completely different. That would have been Daniel Jones's, there you go, passing touchdown at home. Could change the whole narrative. That's how fragile these situations are. But you see the result. And so, yeah, like I said, I think this should have looked a lot more like the Bengals game. We should have been chewing clock and limiting the possessions of their offense. But Daboll decided to pass more. But, he can't throw the ball. And Neighbors said it himself. He was open in this game. The plays Daboll was drawing up were working. On a play, I actually just saw it before starting this recording. Neighbors is going like on a deep post and Slayton breaks in underneath on a dig and Neighbors is pointing him out. He knows he's not open and that Slayton is. He's got no one within 5 to 7 yards of him. It was wide open. Daniel Jones, I didn't see how much pressure he was under, but you got to find time to, make a maneuver in the pocket and deliver that throw. You should know that that's going to be there. So I'm not going to blame Daboll for this game, but he just looks broken. As I stated, I think Mara is forcing him to back up Daniel Jones and start him and say, he's our best chance to win. I don't even know if Daboll believes that. I think he does, but I think he knows that just this is over. He sees the team, he's the head coach, sees the fans, he just knows this isn't it. Now for John Mara. Joe Shane, I really don't have much to say about him. I think he's done a good job. And when it comes to this Daniel Jones decision, it's the same thing with Daboll. I think it was Mara's call. So what do I have to say to him? Just give up. You got to let go. Stop holding on to this. 6 years, right? 6 years at Daniel Jones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's correct. Yeah, sorry, I'm double checking, but I'm really speed running this, and I'm just like in shock. I don't, as a fan, you really hold on as well. You make an argument for your players. You want to root for them, but as the owner, like being financially bound to the situation, I'm really surprised that he held on this long. He must really like Daniel Jones. And you know what? Daniel Jones seems like a great person, right? But I just think he's missing those key things that a quarterback needs, like the leadership, the fire that he can provide for the team, among with other things. I'm sure, honestly, that he could succeed and be okay somewhere else, but it's just not going to be here. And Mara needs to recognize that. Everything's falling apart once again. So it's time for a change. And getting cute with a backup quarterback when we were eliminated is not enough to fix the culture and the fan base for the Giants. Or staying in the hunt until week 15 or 16 and then, eventually getting kicked out of the playoffs and eliminated. DJ would have to go. I can't remember if I said this before, but he would have to go to the divisional round and lose by a point to a great team like the Packers, the Lions, not the Vikings again. I'm not doing it with the same team. Or the Eagles, the Cowboys, I'm not counting them. We played them close. He would have to lose by 1 point to one of those teams or the 49ers for me to even consider wanting him back. So unless if John Mara feels the same way, or even if he doesn't, he's got to make the call to just let him go. It's been enough. Maybe I'm trying to jinx it. Maybe I kind of want that to happen. It would be a pretty epic comeback story, comeback player of the year, Daniel Jones. But yeah, I just don't see it. I mean, these miracle like seasons for the Giants, they were happening with Eli. It's not Eli's not here. We need to be realistic. Okay. So I've been a ride or die for the Giants and DJ since he's gotten here. And I've defended him thoroughly and vigorously against probably my better judgment. And I will admit some bias to it, but I now the there's the switch has been flipped. I just can't. I have to be reconvinced by something amazing, like I explained before, to even consider it, right? Because that's 2 fluke seasons, right? That's what people will say, and that's what you'll have to recognize. So that's all I have to say about the Giants in my Week 7 reaction. Keep an eye out later this week for my next video with Paul talking about the World Series. Go Yankees. Previewing that. At least that's going well for New York sports. And keep an eye out also for my Week 8 preview of the Monday night game. I guess I can come out with that video maybe on Saturday or Friday against the Steelers. And other than that, like the video, subscribe if you aren't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my new videos. All of that supports the channel. Thank you all for watching, and peace out.